Greetings, welcome everyone. I'm Jed Shlackman. I work as a holistic counselor as well as a hypnotherapist and energy healer. For the current video, I'll be speaking about the subject of mind control, looking at that phrase and what it can be used to refer to, and exploring what you could call the dark side and light side of mind control. Many people hear or see that phrase and they think of an abusive or exploitive version of manipulating people's minds. Some people use the term brainwashing, the idea of manipulating or indoctrinating people using some form of coercive method, something that's getting people to think and act in ways that, in a sense, are against their own best interest or impairing their own individual will. So that's kind of the dark side that many people think of. People may think of something like MK Ultra, CIA intelligence agency, and cult mind control type operations. So using things like drugs and trauma and rituals and things to get people into a state where they're submitting to someone else's will, to commands or directions some external person or group is giving them, and they're not able to use their individual sovereignty or individual will to resist or question what they're being directed to do. So we can look at that as a fairly coercive or abusive form of mind control. However, there are many different variations of the concept of mind control and guiding people's thought processes, their mental activity, in an intentional way or in a desired direction. And some of them are really much more subtle and seemingly respectful or well-intentioned in a sense. We can look at any social group or organization as something that wants to manage or direct its members in some way to maintain group cohesion or conformity, coherence among those members of the group, so that they can act in cooperation, collaboration with one another, rather than there being conflict or chaos within that group and things not functioning smoothly or adequately. So really every society is using some form of mind control to get its members to have shared values, shared norms of behavior, and so on. And people usually don't think of that as inherently negative. People usually look at the positive aspect of it, that it supports the functioning of a social unit or group to be able to get along with one another, to cooperate with one another, to have a shared vision for how that group or society will function. So families, countries, communities, all of these different social groups use some methods of what we could call mind control to guide the members to conform in some way. If you grew up in a family, which I'm assuming most, if not everyone watching has done, that family had certain norms, certain rules, certain expectations for how people would interact with one another. Sometimes that was taught or imposed in a very overt way. Sometimes it's more subtle or covert, or just kind of assumed that you model a certain pattern and the other people in the family will copy that model, will conform to it or go along with it. Most of you probably attended some form of schooling as you grew up, and schools can also be looked at as an institution that's supplying some form of mind control. They're seeking to guide the way children think and act. There are certain norms and rules that all the students are expected to follow or conform to. If you don't conform, there's discipline or criticisms you'll receive. It might be negative grades on a report card. It might be a teacher calling your parent about your conduct. So the school is attempting to shape the way the children function and think. It's imparting what that community or society thinks is important or valuable, what knowledge base or information or belief systems are intended to be passed on from one generation to another. So it allows that society or culture to maintain itself, to persist relatively unchanged over time. If there wasn't that indoctrination process and everyone could just kind of think and act for themselves without anything guiding them, then it would be hard for society to maintain stability. So people looking for stability in society would be applying some form of mind control to guide each generation to fit into that society, to carry along the norms and values that that society has agreed upon for itself. So we could look at that as a useful aspect of guiding the way we think and act. So in that context, mind control is something that serves a social purpose for any particular group or community. On an individual level, we can also think about programming our own mind, controlling our own conscious and subconscious thought patterns. Some of you may have heard about a practice called the Silva method, which has also been referred to as Silva mind control, which was taught by a person named Silva, and it actually incorporates aspects of hypnosis and meditation for people to use for themselves to empower their own creative manifestation, their own ability to direct their lives, to pursue what's meaningful and important to them, to have self-confidence, to have faith and confidence in oneself, and so on. So we can think of many self-help tools that help us empower our own mind, our own manifestation potential as a form of mind control also, but using it for ourselves rather than someone external to us putting their values or their goals into our mind. We're actually using a protocol to empower our own thought process, our own energy, influencing, and so on. So that's another application of mind control that people would tend to think of as more positive, as something that actually empowers our own individual consciousness, helps us harness our own energy, our own potential, our own creative will and vision. So we can use that type of method of mind control. For those that are concerned about the coercive external forms of mind control, those are certainly occurring in many aspects of our society. There are many groups or institutions that are seeking to manipulate or influence how we're thinking to serve their agendas, and often those agendas are not beneficial for our own personal well-being or our own personal health or potential, let's say. So if you think about a lot of the advertising that goes on around us, that's using different methods of trying to influence our thoughts and our emotions to help us want to buy some product or service, whether that product or service is something we need or not, or something that will benefit our life or not. There's someone who profits from us purchasing those products and services. Similarly, in politics, there's efforts to manipulate our minds to get us to vote for people or vote on issues, or to get us to join some type of political movement or activism, whatever it might be. And we're not being encouraged to think independently. We're often being encouraged to become part of a group and follow that group's norms, or to blindly accept what someone claiming to be an authority about something is telling us is the reality or truth of a matter. So we're not expected to question or challenge those things. We're being asked to have a kind of blind faith in someone or something. That's something that we can all be wary of, because we want to be clear about our own beliefs and where those beliefs come from. How do we determine anything in particular is true or not? How have we arrived at a particular conclusion or understanding? And in the different steps along the path to that conclusion, could there have been some deception or coercion that twisted things in some particular way that don't reflect the actual reality? Have we been able to personally investigate all the facts or details on a particular topic? If we haven't, there is the potential that someone could be manipulating us, shaping the way we're thinking to serve their purposes, and often that could be a purpose of theirs that's not in alignment with our own interests or our own well-being. There are groups that practice very abusive forms of mind control. So the groups or cults that use different forms of torture or trauma to fragment people's minds, to activate kind of the deepest, most primal aspects of a person's consciousness, and manipulate those where the rational thinking mind, the executive function, can't filter things. Someone is just reacting automatically based upon that very primal level of programming. that's something that is occurring, and it's something that triggers that image of mind control as being a negative, as being a dark practice, when in reality, as I've alluded to, there's many different forms and aspects to what could be called mind control, and some of them are seemingly more benign or serve a useful function in society, or a useful function for harnessing our own consciousness and energy. They're not all some external person or group trying to exploit someone or brainwash them or manipulate them against their will. But both of those polarities, the light and dark sides, do exist, and we want to be conscious and aware of that and observe in our own life how we're potentially using positive forms of mind control for ourselves to shape and strengthen and direct our own mind in some way, versus how external forces, other people or media that we're exposed to, are using different methods to influence our thinking or behavior that serve their agendas or their goals. And we want to consider what their agendas or goals are if we're going along with what they're telling us or suggesting to us or teaching us, expecting us to believe is true. I hope that this short introduction to that phrase mind control and what it can apply to, how it is kind of a foundation of our lives and our existence, whether it's the programming or teaching or indoctrination provided by society, by family, culture, and so on, or specific methods directed individually in our lives by ourselves or others. Those are all key aspects of human life. So mind control is happening in that sense every day all around us. It's a natural part of life, and we want to understand it more and use it more to our advantage than allowing it to be used to our disadvantage. For those who are interested in holistic health and spirituality and personal growth, I invite you to visit my website, phinsights.com. That's phinsights.com. For now, I want to wish everyone a wonderful day. Namaste.